I always thought family was supposed to lift you up, not tear you down. That's what my dad taught me before he passed away 5 years ago. Megan, he'd say, no matter what happens, family sticks together. I held on to those words through college, through my first job, through every milestone. But what happens when the person who's supposed to be your biggest cheerleader becomes your biggest obstacle? What happens when your own mother tells you to hide your success, then hands your achievement to someone else, your own brother, on a silver platter? I'd love to know which corner of the globe you're watching from, and if this story speaks to you, make sure to subscribe. Tomorrow's video is one you absolutely can't miss. Growing up in Riverside, Connecticut, our family looked picture perfect from the outside. My mom, Linda Hayes, was the kind of woman who volunteered at every school function and hosted dinner parties where everything matched down to the napkin rings. My father, James, was the steady, quiet force who worked at Patterson Financial for 25 years. And then there was my brother, Tyler, 2 years older and seemingly blessed with every advantage: natural athleticism, easy charm, and our mother's unwavering adoration. I was different, quieter, more analytical. While Tyler was winning trophies for football and baseball, I was winning math competitions and debate tournaments. My father would beam with pride, but my mother would just smile tightly and say, "That's nice, Megan," before turning her attention back to whatever Tyler was doing. When Dad died suddenly of a heart attack, something shifted in our family dynamic. Mom became even more protective of Tyler, who was struggling through his second year of college, changing majors for the 3rd time. Meanwhile, I doubled down on my studies, graduating with honors in finance and landing an entry-level position at Westmoreland Partners, a boutique investment firm in Hartford. "You're just like your father," Mom said when I told her about the job. I couldn't tell if it was a compliment or criticism. For 3 years, I commuted an hour each way, worked late nights, and sacrificed weekends. My colleagues noticed my dedication, and my bosses praised my attention to detail. Tyler, meanwhile, had dropped out of college by then and was living at home with Mom, occasionally picking up bartending shifts, but mostly playing video games and figuring things out. Mom never pushed him to do more, insisting he was finding his path and needed time to heal after Dad's death. Last spring, everything changed. My direct supervisor, Diane, called me into her office on a Wednesday afternoon. "Close the door." "Megan," she said, gesturing to the chair across from her desk. Her expression was unreadable and my stomach knotted with anxiety. Had I made a mistake on the Brentwood account? Was I being let go? Diane shuffled some papers, then looked up at me with a small smile. "The partners have been watching your work, especially on the Morgan portfolio restructuring." I nodded, my mouth suddenly dry. "We're creating a new position, Associate Director of Client Relations. It would mean managing a small team, higher visibility with clients, and of course a significant bump in salary." She paused. "We'd like to offer it to you." The knot in my stomach transformed into butterflies. Thank you. I'm honored." "You've earned it," Diane said simply. "This isn't charity. Your analytical skills combined with your emotional intelligence, it's rare. The partners see your potential." Walking to my car that evening, I felt like I was floating. The promotion would mean an additional $35,000 a year, enough to finally move out of my cramped apartment and maybe even buy a small condo. But more than the money, it was the recognition, the validation that all those late nights and missed social events had been worth it. My first call was to my best friend, Jasmine. "Oh my God, Meg, we're celebrating this weekend. No arguments." She squealed through the phone. My second call was to my mother. "Mom, I've got amazing news," I said when she answered, the excitement evident in my voice. "I got promoted. Associate Director of Client Relations." There was a pause on the other end. "That's wonderful, honey," she finally said, her voice oddly flat. "It's a big deal," I continued, my enthusiasm dimming slightly at her lack of reaction. There's a significant raise, and I'll be managing people for the first time. Listen, Meg, Mom said, her voice dropping to almost a whisper. I'm happy for you, but maybe keep this quiet for now. What do you mean? Well, you know Tyler's been having a hard time. He just got turned down for that bar manager position last week, and he's taking it pretty hard. I don't think hearing about your promotion right now would be helpful. The butterflies in my stomach turned to lead. So I shouldn't tell my own brother about a major achievement in my life, because it might hurt his feelings. Just for a little while, Mom insisted. He's in a fragile place, maybe in a few weeks when he's feeling more stable. I wanted to argue, to point out how unhealthy this dynamic was, but I could hear the familiar note of finality in her voice. The same tone she'd used whenever I'd tried to get her to see how she favored Tyler. Fine, I said curtly. I won't mention it. Sunday dinner at Mom's house had been a tradition since Dad died. I'd skipped the previous weekend to celebrate my promotion with Jasmine, so I felt obligated to show up this week. As I pulled into the driveway of my childhood home, I noticed Tyler's beaten-up Jeep was already there. I found them in the kitchen, Mom stirring something at the stove while Tyler lounged at the counter, scrolling through his phone. Hey, stranger, Tyler said with a grin, pocketing his phone and giving me a one-armed hug. Despite the complicated dynamics, I loved my brother. It wasn't his fault our mother played favorites. How's work? I asked, helping myself to a glass of water. Actually, Tyler said, straightening up, his eyes bright with excitement. I've got news. Mom turned from the stove, beaming. Tell her. I got a job, a real one, with benefits and everything. That's great, I said, genuinely happy for him. Where? Patterson Financial, he said proudly. Dad's old company. I blinked in surprise. I didn't know you were interested in finance. Mom thought it would be a good fit, Tyler shrugged. She reached out to Bill Thornton. You remember him? Dad's old golf buddy who's now a VP there. That's impressive, I said carefully. What position did you get? Tyler grinned broadly. Associate Director of Client Relations. Sounds fancy, right? I start next Monday. The glass nearly slipped from my hand. Associate Director of Client Relations. The exact title I'd just received in my promotion. The promotion my mother had told me not to mention to avoid hurting Tyler's feelings. I turned to look at Mom, who was studiously focused, unstirring the sauce, refusing to meet my gaze. That's exactly my job title, I said slowly. The promotion I just got. The one you told me not to mention to Tyler. Tyler's smile faltered. What are you talking about? I called Mom last week to tell her I'd been promoted to Associate Director of Client Relations at Westmoreland. She told me to keep it quiet because you were having a hard time job hunting. I couldn't keep the edge from my voice. And now, magically, you have the exact same position at Dad's old company? Mom finally turned around, her face composed in that perfectly reasonable expression she wore when she was about to justify something unjustifiable. It's not the same position, Megan. It's a different company. That's not the point, Mom, I exploded. You told me to hide my achievement because it might hurt Tyler's feelings. Then you went behind my back to get him the same title, Bill mentioned. They were creating the position, and I thought of Tyler, Mom said defensively. What was I supposed to do, not help my own son? How about congratulating your daughter first? I shot back. Or at least not making me feel like my success was something to be ashamed of? Tyler looked uncomfortable, shifting his weight from foot to foot. I didn't know about your promotion, Meg. Mom just said there was an opportunity at Patterson and that I should apply. Did you even interview? I asked him directly. He hesitated, then admitted, just a quick chat with Bill over coffee. He said Mom had told him all about my natural people skills and how I was just like Dad with clients. The irony wasn't lost on me. For years, I'd been told I was like our father, detail-oriented, analytical, hardworking. Now suddenly Tyler was the one who took after him? I worked 3 years for this promotion, I said quietly. Nights, weekends. I earned it. And you got the same title through Mom's connections without any experience or even a completed degree. That's not fair, Mom interjected. Tyler has plenty of experience dealing with people from his bartending jobs. I stared at her, incredulous. Mixing drinks is not the same as managing investment portfolios, Mom. A lot of love and effort went into bringing this story to life. If you're enjoying it, we'd be so grateful if you'd subscribe to our channel. Now, back to where we left off. You've always been so competitive with your brother, Mom said, shaking her head as if I were being unreasonable. I don't understand why you can't just be happy for him. Something snapped inside me. Years of swallowing my hurt, of accepting that I would always come second in my mother's eyes, of working twice as hard for half the recognition, it all came boiling to the surface. I have never been competitive with Tyler, I said, my voice shaking. I have spent my entire life cheering him on, even when you made it clear that his accomplishments mattered more than mine. I got straight A's, and you barely noticed because Tyler scored a touchdown. I graduated summa cum laude, and you spent my entire ceremony talking about how unfair it was that Tyler didn't get into his first-choice college. Tyler looked stricken. Meg, I didn't know. This isn't about you, Tyler, I said, softening slightly. You're my brother, and I love you. I want you to succeed. But this? I gestured vaguely, encompassing the situation. This is about Mom deciding that your success is more important than mine, that my achievements should be hidden if they might overshadow yours, that you deserve the same title I worked years for, handed to you without any of the effort. Mom's face had gone pale, but her jaw was set in that stubborn expression I knew, all too well. You're being dramatic, Megan. I was trying to protect your relationship with your brother, and when an opportunity came up that might help Tyler get on his feet, of course I took it. That's what mothers do. They help their children. Both. Their children, I corrected her. Not just the one they favor. I don't play favorites, Mom insisted, though the protest sounded hollow even to my ears. Tyler cleared his throat. Maybe I should turn down the job. No, I said firmly, surprising myself. Take it. You didn't do anything wrong, and maybe you'll be great at it. But Mom, I turned back to her. I need you to understand what you did. You made me feel like my achievement was something to be hidden, something shameful. Then you used the exact same job title to boost Tyler, without even acknowledging what that would feel like for me. Mom's expression wavered between defensiveness and discomfort. I was trying to help everyone. No, I said quietly. You were trying to help Tyler at my expense, like always. The kitchen fell silent except for the soft bubbling of the sauce on the stove. I could see Tyler processing everything, his expression morphing from confusion to dawning recognition. Perhaps he was finally seeing the pattern that had defined our family dynamic for years. I think I need some air, I said, turning toward the back door. The walls of my childhood home suddenly felt suffocating, laden with years of unspoken resentment and inequity. Dinner's almost ready, Mom called after me, her voice carrying a note of panic. As if a home-cooked meal could paper over decades of favoritism. I'm not hungry, I replied, stepping out onto the back porch. The evening air was cool against my flushed skin. I sat on the old wooden swing Dad had hung when we were kids, gently pushing myself back and forth with my foot. The familiar creak of the chains was soothing, reminiscent of simpler times when Dad was still alive and family dynamics seemed less complicated. After a few minutes, the screen door opened behind me. I expected Mom, ready with more justifications and deflections. Instead, Tyler lowered himself onto the swing beside me. We sat in silence for a moment, the swing swaying gently beneath us. I didn't know, Tyler finally said, his voice uncharacteristically subdued, about any of it. How Mom treated you. how she compared us. I guess I just didn't see it. Why would you? I replied without bitterness. When you're the favorite? The inequity isn't obvious. Tyler winced. Has it always been this way? I considered sugarcoating it, protecting his feelings as I'd done countless times before. But something had shifted inside me. Perhaps it was time for honesty. For as long as I can remember, I admitted. It got worse after Dad died. He used to balance things out, make sure I got recognition too. Tyler was quiet for a long moment. I'm sorry, Meg. I should have noticed. Should have said something. I shrugged. It's not your responsibility. Still, he insisted. You're my sister. We're supposed to have each other's backs. The simple acknowledgement brought unexpected tears to my eyes. I blinked them away, focusing on the darkening sky. About the job, Tyler began hesitantly. I really didn't know about your promotion, but now that I do, it feels wrong. Taking the same title you earned when I didn't put in any of the work. It's not the title that bothers me, I clarified. It's that Mom told me to hide my achievement, then used it as a template for what you should have. It's hypocrisy, the double standard. Tyler nodded slowly. Yeah, I get that now. He paused, then added, For what it's worth, congratulations on your promotion. That's seriously impressive, Meg. 3 years at the same company and already moving up to management? You're killing it. The simple, genuine acknowledgement was like a balm. Thanks, Ty. I'm not sure I'm cut out for finance anyway, he admitted, with a self-deprecating laugh. I took that bartending job because it was easy and social. The idea of spreadsheets and investment portfolios makes my brain hurt. Then why accept the position? Tyler's expression turned thoughtful. Mom was so excited about it, said it would make Dad proud, following in his footsteps, and after years of her disappointment in my lack of direction, it felt good to finally do something right in her eyes. It was a perspective I hadn't considered, that Tyler might feel his own form of pressure from our mother's expectations, different from mine but no less burdensome. What do you actually want to do? I asked him. If Mom's approval wasn't a factor? Tyler's face lit up with an enthusiasm I hadn't seen in years. Honestly, I've been taking some online courses in graphic design. I really like it. Creating logos, building brand identities. I even did some freelance work for a couple of the bars I worked at. I had no idea, I said, genuinely surprised. That sounds perfect for you. You've always been creative. Yeah, but Mom says art isn't a real career, he said, mimicking our mother's dismissive tone. Not like finance. I felt a surge of protectiveness toward my brother that surprised me after years of complicated feelings. Who cares what Mom thinks? Dad would have supported whatever made you happy. Tyler nodded slowly. You're right. He looked toward the house, his expression resolute. I think I'm going to call Bill tomorrow and decline the position. Are you sure? Yeah, he said with newfound conviction. I'd be miserable in finance, and taking a job I'm not qualified for just because Mom pulled strings? That's not who I want to be. He nudged my shoulder gently. Besides, one financial whiz in the family is enough. You got that covered. For the first time that evening, I smiled. So what will you do instead? Build a proper portfolio of my design work. Maybe look for an entry-level position at a marketing firm. Start at the bottom and work my way up. He grinned. Like some overachiever sister I know. The back door opened. Again. And Mom appeared, her silhouette framed by the kitchen light. Dinner's on the table, she said tentatively. Tyler and I exchanged a glance. Years of family history, unspoken expectations, and suppressed resentments hung in the balance. We need to talk, Mom, Tyler said, standing up. About a lot of things. Mom's posture stiffened, but she nodded reluctantly. I suppose we do. As We walked back toward the house. I realized that whatever happened next, something fundamental had changed. The carefully maintained family dynamics had been disrupted, painful truths exposed. It would be messy and uncomfortable, but maybe, just maybe, it could lead to something more authentic, something healthier. And for the first time in years, I felt like both Tyler and I might finally have the chance to define our own paths, free from the weight of our mother's uneven expectations. Dinner that night was unlike any other Sunday meal at the Hayes household. The familiar pot roast and mashed potatoes sat mostly untouched as the three of us navigated a conversation that was 25 years overdue. "I never meant to make you feel less important," Mom said defensively, pushing food around her plate. "You were always so independent, Megan. You didn't seem to need my support the way Tyler did." "That's not how parenting works," I replied, trying to keep my voice steady. "You don't just support the child who demands attention. You make sure both your children feel valued." Tyler, who had been unusually quiet, finally spoke up. "Mom, I've decided not to take the job at Patterson." Mom's fork clattered against her plate. "What? But Bill pulled so many strings." "I don't want to work in finance," Tyler interrupted firmly. "I never have. That was Dad's path, not mine." "But what will you do instead?" Mom asked, her voice rising with panic. "You can't keep bartending forever." "I'm going to pursue graphic design," Tyler said, and I noticed a confidence in his voice I hadn't heard in years. "I've been taking courses online, and I'm actually pretty good at it." Mom looked stricken. "Graphic design? That's not a real career, Tyler. It's a hobby." I watched my brother's face fall, and something protective surged within me. "That's exactly the problem, Mom. You decide what counts as success, what careers are valid, whose achievements matter. You've been doing it our entire lives, and we've both been trying to live up to your impossible standards." Mom's eyes welled with tears. "I only wanted what was best for both of you. Everything I've done was what you thought was best," I finished for her. "But you never asked us what we wanted. You decided Tyler needed finance to be successful, just like you decided my promotion should be hidden because it might hurt his feelings." For once, Mom seemed at a loss for words. She looked between us, perhaps really seeing us both for the first time. "I need some time," she finally said, pushing away from the table. "This is a lot to process." After she left the room, Tyler and I exchanged glances. "Well, that went about as well as expected," he said with a wry smile. "Better, actually," I replied. "She didn't storm out or dismiss everything outright." Tyler nodded thoughtfully. "So what happens now?" I shrugged. "I don't know, but something has to change." The drive back to my apartment that night was filled with a strange mix of emotions. I felt lighter having finally spoken my truth, yet anxious about the uncertain path ahead. The family dynamic that had defined my entire life, flawed as it was, had been shattered. What would take its place? Monday morning, I threw myself into work, grateful for the distraction. My new role meant a larger office, which the maintenance staff had prepared over the weekend. As I arranged my belongings, Diane poked her head in. "Settling in?" she asked with a warm smile. "Getting there," I replied. "It feels strange, like I'm playing dress-up in someone else's job." Diane laughed. "That's imposter syndrome talking. Trust me, you earned this spot." She paused, then added more seriously, "How did your family take the news?" I hesitated. Diane had been a mentor to me over the past 3 years, often lending an ear when I needed professional advice. But I'd always kept my family issues private. "It's complicated," I finally said. Diane nodded knowingly. "Family usually is. My sister didn't speak to me for 6 months when I got promoted before her at our first job. We were both working at the same accounting firm straight out of college." "How did you fix it?" I asked, genuinely curious. "Time," Diane said simply. And a lot of honest conversations. Eventually, she realized my success didn't diminish hers. She smiled wryly. Now, she's a CFO making twice what I do, so it all worked out. My phone buzzed with a text from Tyler. Called Bill, turned down the job. Meeting with a design studio on Wednesday about a junior position. Feels right? I smiled, typing back. Proud of you. 3 dots appeared then. Mom's not speaking to me. Give her time? I sighed, responding. That's her pattern. She'll come around when she's ready, Tyler replied quickly. Hope so. Dinner at my place this weekend? No drama, just pizza and beer. The simple invitation warmed me. Sounds perfect. Good news? Diane asked, noting my expression. Maybe, I replied cautiously. The beginning of something better, at least. The week passed in a blur of new responsibilities. Leading a team was different from individual work. More complex, more political, but also more fulfilling than I'd expected. By Friday, I was exhausted but satisfied, having successfully navigated my first team meeting and client presentation. Mom still hadn't called. I tried not to let it bother me. This was her typical response to conflict: retreat, silence, waiting, for everyone else to come crawling back and pretend nothing had happened. In the past, I'd always given in, calling her with some trivial question or showing up at Sunday dinner as if our last conversation hadn't ended in tears or slammed doors. This time felt different. The truth had been exposed, not just to Mom, but to Tyler as well. There was no going back to the comfortable fiction that we were a normal family with normal dynamics. Saturday evening, I drove to Tyler's apartment in the renovated factory district downtown. He'd been living there for almost a year, but I realized with a pang that this was my first visit. We'd fallen into the pattern of only seeing each other at Mom's house, as if our relationship couldn't exist independently from her orchestration. Tyler's place was surprisingly stylish. Exposed brick, vintage concert posters framed with care, furniture that actually matched. Nothing like the slovenly bachelor pad I'd imagined. Don't look so shocked, he said, laughing at my expression as he handed me a beer. I'm not completely hopeless. It's really nice, I said sincerely. You've got a good eye. Part of why I think design could actually work for me, he replied, gesturing for me to sit. I've always cared about how things look, how they fit together. The coffee table was spread with takeout pizza, and for a while, we just ate and talked about neutral topics. A new Netflix series, my apartment hunt, the craft brewery that had opened down the street. Finally, Tyler set down his beer and looked at me seriously. I've been thinking a lot this week about us, about Mom, about what happened. I nodded, waiting for him to continue. I called Dad's sister, Aunt Rachel, he said. This surprised me. Aunt Rachel had drifted away after Dad's death, her attempts to stay connected systematically discouraged by Mom, who had always claimed Rachel was too critical and judgmental of our parenting choices. What did she say? I asked. Tyler leaned back into the couch. A lot, actually. She said Mom always had a competitive relationship with her own sister, our Aunt Kathleen, who we barely know. Apparently, there was some major falling out before we were born. Something about Grandma leaving Mom the house in her will while Kathleen got less? That explains some things, I mused. Mom's always been weird about sibling relationships. Rachel thinks Mom has been projecting her own sister issues onto us our entire lives, Tyler continued. Creating this competitive dynamic and then trying to fix it by playing referee. The theory made a certain sense. Mom's constant comparisons, her need to elevate one of us at the expense of the other, her insistence on controlling our narrative as siblings. It all pointed to someone working through their own unresolved trauma. That doesn't excuse it, I said firmly. No, Tyler agreed. But it helps me understand it better. He hesitated. Rachel also told me something else. About Dad. I tensed involuntarily. What about him? Apparently he and Mom fought about how she treated us. Especially you. Rachel said Dad would call her venting about how Mom undervalued your achievements or compared us unfairly. A lump formed in my throat. I'd always sensed Dad was my advocate, but hearing that he'd actively fought for me behind the scenes was both validating and heartbreaking. Why didn't he ever say anything to me? I whispered. Tyler shrugged helplessly. Rachel thinks he was trying to protect both Mom's image in our eyes and our relationship with her. He thought he could balance things out by being your champion, and that eventually Mom would see what she was doing. But then he died, I said flatly. And the balance died with him, Tyler finished. We sat in silence for a moment, each processing this new perspective on our family history. Rachel wants to see us, Tyler added. She lives in Boston now. Says she has photos and letters from Dad we might want to have. I'd like that, I said, realizing how much I'd missed having a connection to my father's side of the family. Tyler's phone buzzed. He glanced at it, his expression tightening. Mom? I guessed. He nodded, showing me the text. Have you reconsidered the Patterson position? Bill can still make it happen if you call him Monday. I sighed. She's still not getting it. I don't think she can, Tyler said sadly. At least not yet. Maybe not ever. So what do we do? Tyler typed a response, then showed it to me before sending, Not taking the job, Mom. My decision is final. I've accepted a junior design position at Archer Creative, starting next week. He hit send, then looked at me with a mix of determination and resignation. We live our lives on our terms, set boundaries, love her from a distance if that's what it takes. My phone buzzed next. Mom's message read, Are you coming to dinner tomorrow? Made your favorite pot roast. No acknowledgement of our last conversation. No recognition of the hurt she'd caused. Just an attempt to reset to our normal pattern, as if nothing had happened. In the past, I might have accepted the peace offering, desperate to restore harmony even at the cost of my own dignity. But something had shifted inside me. I was done pretending. I typed my response carefully. Not this Sunday, Mom. I need some time. I love you, but things need to change between us. Tyler raised his beer bottle in a toast. To setting boundaries, I clinked my bottle against his. To new beginnings. Monday morning brought a surprise visitor to my office. As I was reviewing client portfolios, there was a knock at my door. I looked up to see Mom standing awkwardly in the doorway, clutching her purse with both hands. Mom, I said, startled. What are you doing here? Your assistant let me in, she said, glancing around at my new office. It's nice. Looks professional. Thanks, I replied cautiously. Did we have plans I forgot about? She shook her head, still hovering in the doorway. May I come in? I gestured to the chair across from my desk, setting aside my work. Mom sat stiffly, her posture perfect as always, her eyes taking in every detail of my space. I'm sorry for showing up unannounced, she began formally. But after you and Tyler both declined dinner yesterday, I realized this wasn't going to resolve itself the way these things usually do. I remained silent, waiting. I spoke with Rachel. Mom continued, surprising me. Tyler's been in touch with her, and she reached out to me. What did she say? I asked, wondering what could have prompted this unprecedented visit. Mom's hands twisted, in her lap. She reminded me of some things, about my relationship with my own sister, about patterns I might be repeating. She looked up at me, her eyes shining with unshed tears. And she told me how your father used to advocate for you, how concerned he was about how I treated you. I swallowed hard, unprepared for this conversation in the middle of my workday. I see. I didn't come here to make excuses, Mom said, her voice stronger now. I came to say I'm sorry. I've been unfair to you your entire life, Megan. I've minimized your achievements, made you feel like you needed to dim your light for your brother's sake. It was wrong. The simple acknowledgement, delivered without qualification or deflection, left me momentarily speechless. I'm not asking for instant forgiveness, Mom continued, filling the silence. I know it will take time to rebuild trust. But I want you to know that I'm proud of you. This promotion, she gestured around the office, you earned it. And I should have celebrated that with you instead of making you feel like it was something to hide. Tears pricked at my eyes. The words I'd longed to hear for so many years, finally spoken in my own office. The tangible proof of my hard work and dedication. Thank you, I managed to say. That means a lot. Mom nodded, seeming to understand the magnitude of the moment. I've also called Bill Thornton and apologized for putting him in an awkward position with Tyler. He understood, especially when I explained that Tyler has other career aspirations. You're accepting his decision about design? I asked, unable to keep the surprise from my voice. A small smile tugged at Mom's lips. I'm trying to. Rachel reminded me that your father always said Tyler had an artist's eye, even as a little boy. The way he arranged his toys, the attention he paid to colors and shapes. She sighed. I was so focused on him finding a respectable career like your father's that I missed what was right in front of me. We're all just trying to find our paths, I said gently. Mom reached across the desk, hesitantly placing her hand over mine. I've made an appointment with a therapist, she said, her voice wavering slightly. Rachel suggested it might help me work through some of my issues around sibling relationships. I don't want to keep hurting the two people I love most in the world. The admission of vulnerability, so out of character for my always-in-control mother, touched something deep inside me. This was real effort, real change, not just a temporary appeasement until we could slip back into old patterns. I'm proud of you for doing that, I said sincerely. It takes courage. Mom withdrew her hand, composing herself. Well, I won't take up any more of your workday. I just wanted to see your new office, tell you how proud I am in person. She stood, smoothing her skirt. Perhaps we could try dinner again next Sunday? All three of us? Tyler mentioned he starts his new job tomorrow. I'd like that, I said, rising to walk her out. And Mom? Thank you for coming today. She paused at the door, looking back at me with a mixture of regret and hope. It's a start, isn't it? Yes, I agreed. A new start for all of us. After she left, I sat back at my desk, emotions swirling. One conversation couldn't erase decades of hurt, but it was more than I'd ever expected. An acknowledgement, an apology, a commitment to change. My phone buzzed with a text from Tyler. Mom just called. Sounds like she visited you too? Said she's proud of my design job. Who is this woman and what has she done with our mother? I smiled, typing back. Rachel must be some kind of miracle worker. Tyler replied. Or maybe losing both of us at once was the wake-up call she needed. Perhaps we were both right. People rarely change without strong motivation, and Mom had suddenly faced the prospect of damaging her relationships with both her children beyond repair. Coupled with Rachel's insights and the painful reminder of Dad's concerns, it might have been enough to break through decades of entrenched behavior. I returned to my work, feeling lighter than I had in years. The promotion that had triggered this family earthquake now seemed like just one piece of a much larger shift, a recalibration of relationships, expectations, and boundaries that was long overdue. That evening, as I unlocked the door to my apartment, I noticed a package leaning against the wall. Inside was a framed photo I'd never seen before. My father and me at my college graduation, his arm around my shoulders, his face beaming with unmistakable pride. A note was tucked into the corner of the frame in Mom's elegant handwriting. Found. This while looking through your father's things. He kept it on his desk at work. You were always his brightest star. I'm sorry I couldn't see what he saw so clearly. I'm trying now. Love. Mommy placed the photo on my own desk, next to my computer where I would see it every day. A reminder of the father who had quietly championed me, the mother who was finally trying to change, and my own strength in finally standing up for myself. The path forward wouldn't be perfect. Old habits and dynamics don't disappear overnight, no matter how sincere the intention to change. But for the first time, it felt like we were all moving in the same direction. Toward healing, toward honesty, toward a family relationship built on mutual respect rather than competition and favoritism. And that was worth more than any promotion could ever be. 6 months passed, bringing changes none of us could have anticipated. Tyler thrived at Archer Creative, his natural talent for visual composition quickly earning him recognition beyond his junior position. I settled into my role as associate director, eventually moving into a spacious one-bedroom condo closer to the office. And Mom was working through decades of unexamined patterns with her therapist, sometimes stumbling but always getting back up. Our Sunday dinners resumed, but with a different energy. We rotated hosting duties between the three of us, and the conversations no longer revolved around carefully curated topics designed to maintain the illusion of perfect family harmony. Instead, we talked about real things: our struggles at work, Mom's therapy insights, memories of Dad that had previously been too painful to discuss. One rainy October evening, I was working late, finalizing a presentation for a new client meeting. The following day, a knock on my office door revealed Diane, coat draped over her arm. "Still here?" she asked, though the answer was obvious. I gestured to the spreadsheets spread across my desk. "The Berkeley portfolio review is tomorrow, just making sure everything's perfect." Diane nodded approvingly. "That attention to detail is why you're going to go far, Megan." She paused, then added, "But you should also know when to call it a day. The presentation looks solid." "Thanks," I said, gathering the papers into a neat stack. "I'm just about finished anyway." "Good, because there's something I wanted to discuss with you before I left," Diane said, her tone turning more serious as she settled into the chair across from me. My stomach clenched instinctively. After years of bracing for criticism or disappointment, it was still my default reaction to such pronouncements. "Westbrook is retiring," Diane said without preamble. I blinked in surprise. Alan Westbrook was a senior partner who managed relationships with some of our oldest and most valuable clients. "When?" I asked. "End of the year," Diane replied. "Which means we need to start transitioning his client load." "That makes sense," I said cautiously, not yet seeing how this connected to me. Diane leaned forward slightly. "The partners and I have been discussing who should take over his accounts. We're considering splitting them between you and Marcus Thompson." My breath caught. Marcus had been with the firm 3 years longer than me and was widely considered to be on the fast track to partnership. "That's unexpected," I managed to say. "I assumed Peterson or Jacobs would handle those accounts." Diane shook her head. "They're excellent analysts but lack your client touch. Westbrook's clients expect a certain level of personal attention and financial acumen. You've demonstrated both." Pride warmed my chest, but caution tempered my reaction. "What would this mean for my current workload?" "We'd redistribute some of your existing accounts," Diane explained. "It would be a significant step up, Megan. More responsibility, more visibility with the partnership committee." She paused meaningfully. "More compensation, of course." "How much more?" I asked directly, remembering my father's advice to never be afraid to discuss money when it came to career advancement. Diane named a figure that made my eyes widen. It represented a 40% increase on my already substantial post-promotion salary. "That's generous," I said, trying to maintain my professional composure. "It's market rate for the value you'd be bringing to the firm," Diane corrected me. "Think about it over the weekend. We can discuss details on Monday if you're interested." "I'm definitely interested," I assured her. But I appreciate the time to consider everything. After Diane left, I sat back in my chair, processing this unexpected development. 6 months ago, I'd been thrilled just to make associate director. Now I was being considered for accounts that typically went to senior management on track for partnership. I reached for my phone, instinctively wanting to share the news with someone. In the past, I might have hesitated to tell my family about another professional advancement, still conditioned to downplay my success. But things had changed. Called Tyler first. "Hey, sis," he answered cheerfully over the background noise of what sounded like a busy restaurant. "What's up?" "You busy?" I asked. "Just grabbing dinner with some work people," he replied. "But I can talk. Everything okay?" "Everything's great, actually," I said, unable to keep the excitement from my voice. "I just got offered a huge opportunity. At work. Diane wants me to take over some of Westbrook's client accounts when he retires." "That's huge," Tyler exclaimed, his enthusiasm immediate and genuine. "Isn't he one of the big shots there, with all the fancy clients?" "Yes," I confirmed, warmed by his reaction. "It would mean a significant promotion and quite a substantial raise." "We're celebrating this weekend," Tyler declared. "No arguments. Tell me you'll take Saturday off so we can do brunch and champagne." "I think that can be arranged," I laughed. "Good. Invite Mom, too," Tyler added casually. "She'd want to be there." The suggestion no longer filled me with dread. "I will. How's your week been?" "Pretty amazing, actually," Tyler said, lowering his voice slightly. "That's why I'm out with the team tonight. I landed the Meridian Hotels account, my first major client acquisition." "Tyler, that's incredible," I said sincerely. "They liked my pitch for their rebranding," he continued, the pride evident in his voice. "Said my approach was innovative but grounded. The creative director actually let me take the lead on presenting to their marketing team." "I'm so proud of you," I told him, meaning every word. "Thanks, Meg. Listen, I should get back to the table, but call Mom and then let's firm up brunch plans tomorrow, okay?" "Will do. Have fun celebrating your big win." After we hung up, I sat for a moment, savoring the simple pleasure of sharing good news with my brother and receiving unalloyed happiness. In return, no competition, no comparison, no underlying tension, just genuine mutual support. My next call was to Mom. "Megan," she answered warmly. "I was just thinking about you. How are you, sweetheart?" The term of endearment still felt new. Growing up, Mom had rarely used such affectionate language with me, reserving her warmth primarily for Tyler. The shift over the past months had been subtle but meaningful. "I'm great, Mom. Just got some exciting news at work." I explained about Westbrook's retirement and the opportunity it presented, trying to convey the significance without downplaying my excitement. "That's wonderful," Mom said, her tone sincere. "They obviously recognize your talent and dedication." "It's a big step," I agreed. "Tyler suggested we celebrate with brunch on Saturday. Are you free?" "I'd love that," Mom replied. "Should I bring anything?" "Just yourself," I told her. "We have double the reason to celebrate, actually. Tyler landed a major account at work, too. He mentioned he was working on a big pitch," Mom said. I wasn't sure if it was appropriate to ask for details. This was new territory for us. Mom respecting Tyler's professional boundaries, not pushing for information or trying to micromanage his career. Another small sign of growth. "He can tell you all about it on Saturday," I said. "It sounds like quite an accomplishment." "You're both doing so well," Mom said softly. "Your father would be bursting with pride." The mention of Dad no longer brought only pain. Over the past months, Mom had been sharing more stories about him, helping us connect with memories that had been too raw after his death. "I think so too," I replied. "Good night, Mom." "Good night, dear, and congratulations again. It's well deserved." Saturday morning found the three of us at Elderflower, a trendy brunch spot downtown that had been impossible to get into before the pandemic, but now accepted reservations. Tyler had secured us a table by the window, sunshine streaming across the white tablecloth. To the Hayes siblings, Mom toasted, raising her mimosa glass, taking the professional world by storm. We clinked glasses, the simple ritual feeling, significant, a celebration of both our individual successes and our evolving family dynamic. So tell me more about this hotel account, I prompted Tyler as we dug into our food. Tyler's face lit up as he described the rebranding project for Meridian. Hotels, a regional chain looking to position itself as a boutique experience rather than a standard business accommodation. The amazing thing is that they're actually using my concept, he explained. Not just the visuals, but the entire brand narrative I developed. They're implementing it across all 15 properties. That's incredible, I said sincerely. Especially for someone who's only been in the industry for 6 months. Tyler shrugged modestly. My boss says I have good instincts. Plus, working all those bartending jobs gave me a perspective on hospitality that the other designers didn't have. Sometimes our winding paths lead us exactly where we need to be, Mom observed thoughtfully. Tyler and I exchanged surprised glances. This philosophical acceptance of nonlinear career trajectories was a far cry from the mother who had once insisted on conventional definitions of success. Therapy insights? Tyler asked her directly, a question that would have been unthinkable. A year earlier, Mom smiled ruefully. Something like that. Dr. Winters has been helping me examine why I was so fixated on certain career paths being legitimate, while others weren't. She took a sip of her drink before continuing. Apparently, I've been carrying around my father's narrow definitions of success my entire life. Grandpa had strong opinions, I recalled. My father's father had been a stern banker who measured worth primarily through financial achievement and social standing. He wanted your father to join his bank, Mom said. Was deeply disappointed when James chose a different firm. I never realized how much I'd internalized Grandpa's judgments until recently. Well, I'm glad you're letting them go, Tyler said. Gently. Because I'm really happy doing what I'm doing now. I can see that, Mom acknowledged. You have a spark I haven't seen since you were a little boy. The same enthusiasm you used to have when you'd show me your elaborate Lego constructions. Tyler laughed. I forgot about that phase. I was obsessed with creating perfect symmetry in everything I built. Your father used to say you had the eye of an architect, Mom reminisced. He would have loved seeing where that creative vision has taken you. As they continued sharing memories, I found myself thinking about Dad and the subtle ways he had tried to balance Mom's favoritism. The framed graduation photo now sat on my desk at work, a daily reminder of his quiet support. What about you? Megan? Mom asked, pulling me from my thoughts. Tell us more about these important clients you'll be taking over. I outlined the Westbrook transition, explaining the significance of the accounts and what it could mean for my future at the firm. Diane mentioned partnership track, I admitted, still slightly amazed by the prospect. It's usually a 10-year minimum journey, but she thinks I could be considered in 6 or 7 years if things continue this way. That's fantastic, Mom said warmly. Though I have to ask, is partnership what you want? Or is it just what's expected next? The question caught me off guard. Mom had never before encouraged me to question the conventional path of advancement. I don't know, I said honestly. I've been so focused on moving up that I haven't really asked myself if that's the ultimate goal. No rush to decide, Mom assured me. I'm just learning that it's important to occasionally step back and ask if we're climbing the ladder because we want what's at the top, or just because the ladder is there. Tyler raised his eyebrows at me across the table, his expression clearly, saying, "Who is this woman and what has she done with our mother?" I suppressed a smile, turning back to Mom. That's good advice. I'll think about it. Speaking of thinking about things, Tyler segued smoothly. I had a call with Aunt Rachel yesterday. She and Uncle David are planning a trip out this way next month. That's wonderful, Mom said, and I noticed only the slightest tension in her posture. Her relationship with her former sister-in-law was still a work in progress. Where will they be staying? They've booked a hotel downtown, Tyler replied. But I thought maybe we could host a family dinner one night, all of us together? Mom nodded slowly. I'd like that. It's time we reconnected properly. She hesitated, then added, Rachel sent me some photos recently, from your father's side of the family. There's one of him as a boy that looks remarkably like you, Tyler. She mentioned that, Tyler said. Apparently, Dad and I share the same cowlick that won't stay down no matter what. The conversation flowed easily after that, touching on Rachel's planned visit, Mom's garden club, Tyler's new apartment search, and my condo renovation ideas. We lingered over coffee long after our plates were cleared, none of us in a hurry to end this rare moment of genuine family connection. As we finally prepared to leave, Mom reached into her purse and pulled out 2 small gift boxes, one for each of us. A little celebration of your professional accomplishments, she explained, pushing the boxes across the table. Tyler and I exchanged curious glances before opening them. Inside mine was a sleek silver pen with my initials engraved along the side. I recognized it immediately. A Mont Blanc, the same brand Dad had carried throughout his career. Dad's pen? I asked, running my finger along the smooth surface. Mom shook her head. Not his exact one. That's in the box of his things I'm still sorting through. But the same model. He always said a quality pen was the mark of a serious professional. Tyler was examining his gift, a pair of silver cufflinks, with his initials on one and what looked like a small artist's palette on the other. These are beautiful, he said, clearly touched. I had them custom-made, Mom explained. I wanted something that honored both your professional side and your creative talents. The thoughtfulness of the gifts, truly personalized to each of us, without comparison or favoritism, was yet another sign of how far we'd come. As we stood outside the restaurant saying our goodbyes, Mom hugged each of us with equal warmth. I'm so proud of both of you, she said, her eyes bright with unshed tears. Not just for your professional achievements, but for who you are as people. For your kindness, your integrity, your resilience. She touched each of our cheeks gently. And I'm grateful for your patience with me as I learn how to be a better mother to both of you. The simple acknowledgement meant more than any grand gesture could have. This wasn't about erasing the past or pretending the hurt had never happened. It was about building something new on a foundation of honesty and mutual respect. See you Sunday? Tyler asked her as she prepared to leave. My turn to host, Mom confirmed. I'm trying that Mediterranean chicken recipe you sent, Megan. Another small but significant change. Mom trying one of my recipes rather than insisting on her traditional repertoire. As Mom's car pulled away, Tyler turned to me with a bemused expression. Did we enter an alternate universe? Because I'm still not entirely convinced that's the same woman who raised us. I laughed, linking my arm through his as we walked toward the parking garage. People can change if they really want to. Some, more than others, Tyler observed. I don't think any of us would have predicted this scenario a year ago. What scenario is that? I asked. Tyler gestured vaguely. You know, you advancing toward partnership, me designing hotel brands, Mom quoting, therapy insights and giving us thoughtful, individualized gifts. Life takes unexpected turns, I agreed. Speaking of unexpected, Tyler said, his tone shifting to something more hesitant. There's something else I wanted to talk to you about. A business idea I've been considering. Oh? I prompted, curious about his sudden seriousness. I've been thinking about Dad's philosophy about investing in people, not just portfolios, Tyler began, and about how my design work is really about helping businesses tell their stories visually. I nodded, following so far. What if there was a consulting firm that combined financial guidance with brand storytelling? Tyler continued, growing more animated. Helping small businesses not just manage their money but craft their market position from the ground up? That's actually an interesting concept, I said, genuinely intrigued. Financial firms and creative agencies rarely collaborate effectively, even though those services are complementary for business clients. Exactly, Tyler exclaimed. And we both know people don't make purely rational decisions about money or brands. There's always an emotional component. What if we addressed both sides of that equation? We? I repeated, raising an eyebrow. Tyler smiled sheepishly. I've been sketching out some ideas. Nothing concrete yet. But someday, maybe, I don't know. Hayes and Hayes Consulting has a nice ring to it. The suggestion caught me by surprise. A year ago, the idea of going into business with my brother would have seemed preposterous. Now it felt like an intriguing possibility, potentially challenging, but built on newfound mutual respect. It's definitely something to think about, I said, meaning it. Let me see how this new position plays out, and maybe we can revisit the idea in a year or so. Tyler nodded, seeming pleased that I hadn't dismissed the concept outright. No rush. We're both still figuring out our paths. As we reached our cars, Tyler surprised me with a quick hug. Thanks for always believing in me, Meg, even when I didn't. Believe in myself. That's what siblings are for, I replied simply. Driving home, I reflected on how profoundly things had changed in 6 short months. The painful confrontation that had begun with a hidden promotion and a borrowed job title had ultimately set us all free. From unhealthy patterns, from unspoken resentments, from roles we'd been playing for far too long. There would still be difficult moments ahead. Mom would slip occasionally into old habits. Tyler and I would navigate the new terrain of adult-sibling relationship with occasional missteps. The ghost of our family's past would surface in unexpected moments, but the foundation had shifted. Truth had replaced pretense. Genuine support had replaced competition. And most importantly, each of us was finally free to define success on our own terms, carving individual paths while remaining connected in ways that were healthy and authentic. As I pulled into my condo parking garage, my phone buzzed with a text from Mom. Forgot to mention, found a box of Dad's old journals in the attic. Many entries about you both. Would you like to read them together sometime? I smiled, typing back. Absolutely. Let's plan for it. Another piece of Dad to reconnect with. Another opportunity to strengthen our healing family bonds. Another step forward on this unexpected journey. The promotion that had started it all now seemed like the smallest part of what I'd gained these past months. The real achievement wasn't a title or salary increase, but the courage to speak my truth and the wisdom to recognize when reconciliation was possible. Some victories can't be measured on a resume or recognized with a plaque on the wall. They're written instead in honest conversations, in tears shed and dried together, in the slow rebuilding of trust between people who share not just blood, but a commitment to something better than what came before. And those are the victories that truly matter in the end. 2 years passed quickly, marked by milestones both professional and personal. My management of Westbrook's former clients proved so successful that Diane accelerated my timeline, hinting that partnership might be possible in as little as 4 years rather than the 6 or 7 she'd initially projected. Tyler's design. Work earned him rapid promotions at Archer Creative, culminating in his appointment as creative director for their hospitality division at the remarkably young age of 30. On a personal level, I'd met Andrew, an architectural engineer, at a charity fundraiser. After a year of dating, we'd moved in together, combining our lives in a renovated townhouse in the city's historic district. Tyler had started seeing Elise, a pediatric nurse with a warm laugh and no tolerance for self-pity, qualities that complemented his creative energy and occasional tendency toward melancholy. As for Mom, her transformation continued gradually but steadily. 2 years of weekly therapy had softened her rigid expectations and helped her develop healthier boundaries. She'd reconnected not only with Aunt Rachel, but also with friends she'd lost touch with after Dad's death. She'd even reconciled with her own sister, Kathleen, a tentative rebuilding of their fractured relationship that none of us had thought possible. One crisp fall evening, I was cooking dinner while Andrew worked on blueprints at the kitchen island when my phone rang. Tyler's name flashed on the screen. "Hey, what's up?" I answered, cradling the phone against my shoulder as I stirred the risotto. "Are you sitting down?" Tyler asked, his voice vibrating with suppressed excitement. "Should I be?" I replied, lowering the heat under the pan. "Probably," he said. "I just got offered my own studio." I nearly dropped the wooden spoon. "What? By whom?" "Meridian Hotels," Tyler explained breathlessly. "Remember that rebranding I did for them 2 years ago? The CEO called me personally today. They want to bring their design work in-house and build a dedicated creative studio. They want me to run it." "That's incredible," I said sincerely, signaling to Andrew that something big was happening. "What would that look like exactly?" "Full creative control," Tyler continued. "A team of 5 designers to start, with room to grow, overseeing everything from property branding to marketing materials, website design, even input on architectural aesthetics for renovations and new properties." "Sounds perfect for you," I said, genuinely thrilled for him. "What did you tell them?" "That I needed a few days to consider it," Tyler replied. "It's a huge opportunity, but also a big change. More responsibility, more pressure, more money," I guessed. Tyler laughed. "Significantly more. Plus equity options if I stay 5 years. "Wow," I breathed. "That's a serious commitment from them." "I know," Tyler agreed. "Apparently my work increased their occupancy rates by 20% across all properties. The CEO called it transformative." Pride swelled in my chest. "You deserve this, Ty. You've worked incredibly hard." "Thanks, Meg." His voice softened. "I wanted you to be the first to know." "Before Mom?" I asked, surprised. "Yeah," Tyler said simply. "Your opinion matters most to me on career stuff. Always has." The simple acknowledgement warmed me deeply. "So, what's holding you back from saying yes immediately?" Tyler hesitated. "Remember that business idea I mentioned a couple years ago? Hayes and Hayes? The financial creative hybrid consulting concept?" I recalled. "Of course." "I still think about it," Tyler admitted. "If I take this corporate position, it probably pushes that dream further into the future." I considered this thoughtfully. Not necessarily. Corporate experience at this level might actually make you better positioned to launch something independent down the road. Plus, the connections you'd make could be invaluable. "That's a good point," Tyler mused. "What about you? Still on the partnership track?" I glanced at Andrew, who was pretending not to eavesdrop while sketching building elevations. "Yes, but I've been having some thoughts about that too." "What kind of thoughts?" Tyler prompted. I lowered my voice slightly. "Diane is grooming me to take over her position eventually. She's planning to retire in about 8 years. "That's huge," Tyler remarked. "You'd be what, 38? Incredibly young for that level of leadership." "Exactly," I agreed. "But lately, I've been wondering if I want my life to be consumed by the firm the way hers has been. She's brilliant and successful, but she also works 70-hour weeks and has sacrificed a lot for her career." Andrew looked up from his blueprints, giving me an encouraging smile. We'd been having variations of this conversation privately for months. "Sounds like we're both at crossroads," Tyler observed. "Different paths, similar questions," I agreed. "Listen, I need to finish dinner, but let's meet up this weekend. Really talk through your options?" "Definitely," Tyler said. "Sunday brunch? Just us?" "Perfect," I replied. "And Tyler, congratulations. Whatever you decide, this offer is a huge validation of your talent. After hanging up, I filled Andrew in on Tyler's news. Sounds like an amazing opportunity, he commented, rolling up his blueprints. You think he'll take it? Probably, I said, returning to the risotto. It would be hard to turn down. Andrew studied me thoughtfully. You mentioned those crossroads? Again. Any new thoughts on your own path? I shrugged, trying to appear more casual than I felt. Still percolating. But I've been wondering if there might be a way to create something that offers more flexibility, more control over my time. Like your brother's Hayes and Hayes idea? Andrew suggested. Maybe, I acknowledged. The partnership track is prestigious, but it's also a well-worn path with very specific expectations and sacrifices. Andrew nodded understandingly. And you've never been one to follow a path just because it's there. I smiled at his perception. Something my mom only recently figured out. Speaking of whom, Andrew said, should we invite her to dinner next week? It's been a while since she's been over. The easy way Andrew had integrated into our family dynamics still surprised me sometimes. There was no awkwardness, no walking, on eggshells around Mom, largely because Mom herself had worked hard to create healthier relationships with everyone in our lives. That would be nice, I agreed. I'll call her tomorrow. Sunday found Tyler and me at our favorite brunch spot, a table by the window allowing us to watch the fall leaves swirling along the sidewalk outside. So, I said after we'd ordered, have you made a decision about Meridian's offer? Tyler nodded, a mixture of excitement and nervousness crossing his features. I'm going to accept, but with some conditions. What kind of conditions? I asked curiously. Creative autonomy, for one, Tyler explained. I want it in writing that I have final say on design decisions, and I want the freedom to take on select independent clients. No competitors to Meridian, of course, but maybe 1 or 2 passion projects a year. I nodded appreciatively. Smart, keeps your skills sharp and your options open. Exactly, Tyler. Agreed. What about you? Any developments on your career thoughts? I hesitated, then decided to share the idea I'd been nurturing privately for months. I'm considering a rather significant pivot. Tyler raised his eyebrows. What kind of pivot? I've been talking with some of my smaller clients, I explained. The entrepreneurs and family businesses that often get less attention at large firms like Westmoreland. There's a real need for personalized financial guidance that goes beyond just managing investments. Like coaching? Tyler suggested. More comprehensive than that, I said, warming to the topic. These clients need someone who understands both the financial and personal sides of their businesses. Someone who can help them create sustainable growth while remaining true to their values and vision. Tyler studied me thoughtfully. That sounds like it draws on your strengths perfectly. The analytical skills plus the genuine care for people. It would mean stepping off the partnership track, I admitted, which feels radical after working toward it for so long. But? Tyler prompted. But? It also feels right, I said simply. More aligned with what I actually care about versus what I thought I should care about. Tyler nodded slowly. Does Andrew support the idea? Completely, I confirmed. He's even offered to help with the business aspects, organizational structure, overhead projections, that sort of thing. He's a good one, Tyler observed with a smile. So what's the timeline for this pivot? I took a deep breath. That's the big news, actually. I've given notice at Westmoreland. Tyler's eyes widened. Seriously? When? Friday, I admitted. Diane was surprised but supportive. She even suggested I might be able to bring some of my smaller clients with me, with the firm's blessing. That's incredibly generous of her, Tyler remarked. She said she'd rather see me succeed on my own terms than lose me entirely to burnout. In a few years, I explained. Plus, there may be opportunities for collaboration. Cases where a client needs both the resources of a large firm and the personalized attention I can provide. So, you're really doing this? Tyler said, a note of admiration in his voice. Megan Hayes, entrepreneur. Terrifying and exhilarating, I confirmed with a nervous laugh. I've signed a lease on a small office space downtown. Nothing fancy, but it has good light and room for an assistant eventually. Have you told Mom? Tyler asked, the question that was bound to arise. I shook my head. Not yet. I wanted to be certain before I shared the news. She might surprise you with her reaction, Tyler suggested. The new and improved Mom 2.0 has been remarkably supportive of unconventional choices lately. True, I acknowledged. She didn't even blink when Aunt Kathleen announced she was selling her house to travel the country in an RV. A far cry from the woman who thought bartending wasn't a real job, Tyler agreed with a chuckle. Our food arrived, momentarily pausing the conversation. As we ate, I found myself reflecting on how profoundly our lives had changed over the past 2 years. Not just our careers and relationships, but our core sense of what success meant to each of us. You know, I said eventually, I keep thinking about that awful Sunday dinner, when everything exploded. Tyler nodded, understanding immediately which day I meant. The promotion showdown. As painful as it was at the time, I'm not sure we'd be here without it, I mused. That confrontation forced us all to face some hard truths. The best worst day of our adult lives, Tyler suggested with a wry smile. Something like that, I agreed. It was the first time I really stood up for myself with Mom, the first time you saw the pattern clearly, and the first time Mom had to face the consequences of her behavior, Tyler added. Though I still can't believe Aunt Rachel was the catalyst for her to actually change. Sometimes it takes an outside perspective, I observed. Someone who can see the forest instead of just the trees. We finished our meals, the conversation turning to lighter topics. Tyler's search for a new apartment closer to Meridian's headquarters, my plans for the new practice, Andrew's latest architectural project. As we prepared to leave, Tyler cleared his throat awkwardly. So, speaking of life changes, he began, suddenly intensely interested in the last few crumbs on his plate. I've been thinking about asking Elise to marry me. Joy surged through me. Tyler, that's wonderful! He looked up, his expression softening. Yeah? You think it's not too soon? You've been together over a year, I pointed out. And more importantly, she brings out the best in you. I've never seen you happier or more grounded. Tyler nodded, relief evident in his posture. That's exactly it. She challenges me, supports me, makes me laugh. I can't imagine life without her now. Then I think your timing is perfect, I assured him. Would you help me look at rings? Tyler asked. I want it to be special, but I'm completely out of my depth with jewelry. Of course, I agreed immediately. Though I think Elise would treasure anything you chose. Tyler smiled gratefully. Thanks, Meg, for everything. The simple phrase encompassed so much. My support of his career, my acceptance of Elise, my role in helping our family heal, my lifelong presence as his sister and friend. That's what family is supposed to be, I replied simply. 2 weeks later, we gathered at Mom's house for a special dinner. The occasion was officially to celebrate Tyler's new position and my new venture, but there was an undercurrent of nervous energy that suggested Tyler had bigger plans for the evening. Elise was helping Mom in the kitchen while Andrew and I set the dining room table. Tyler paced nervously in the living room, his hand repeatedly patting the pocket of his jacket where I knew a small velvet box was hidden. She's going to say yes, I reassured him quietly as I passed through with a stack of napkins. Stop worrying. What? If she thinks it's too soon? Tyler fretted. Or what if she doesn't want to be tied to someone whose family has so much history? I raised an eyebrow. Elise is a pediatric trauma nurse who grew up in foster care. I think she understands that families are complicated. Tyler nodded, acknowledging the truth in this. You're right. I'm just nervous. That's how you know it matters, I reminded him. Mom appeared in the doorway, wiping her hands on a dish towel. Dinner's ready. Tyler, would you open the wine? As we gathered around the table, I was struck by how natural it felt, this blended group of family and significant others, sharing a meal without the tension that had once defined our gatherings. Mom had prepared Tyler's favorite lasagna and my preferred salad. Andrew and Elise were chatting easily about a community garden project they'd both independently volunteered for. The scene was ordinary in the best possible way. Before we start, Mom said, raising her wine glass, I want to toast my remarkable children. Tyler, this creative director position is a testament to your talent and vision. And Megan, launching your own practice takes tremendous courage and clarity. Your father would be so proud of you both, as am I. The simple acknowledgement delivered, with equal warmth to both of us, still held the power to move me deeply. The wounds of our past hadn't disappeared entirely, but they had healed enough to allow new, healthier patterns to emerge. We clinked glasses, the conversation flowing easily as we shared updates on our various projects. As dessert was served, a tiramisu that Elise had brought. Tyler cleared his throat nervously. I actually have another announcement to make, he began, his voice slightly unsteady. All eyes turned to him as he pushed back his chair and, in a move that made Elise gasp, dropped to one knee beside her. Elise, he said, pulling the small velvet box from his pocket, you walked into my life at exactly the right moment, when I was finally figuring out who I really am, what I really want. He opened the box, revealing the vintage emerald ring we'd found at an estate jeweler. You've shown me what true partnership looks like, supporting each other's dreams while building something beautiful together. Tears welled in Elise's eyes as Tyler continued, his voice growing steadier with each word. I love your compassion, your strength, your ridiculous laugh, even your terrible taste in movies, he said, drawing a watery chuckle from Elise. I love the life we're creating, and I want to keep building it with you every day. Will you marry me? Yes, Elise said without hesitation, her voice choked with emotion. Absolutely yes. As Tyler slipped the ring onto her finger and the table erupted in congratulations, I caught Mom's eye across the table. Her expression was one of pure, unalloyed joy. No calculation, no comparison, no agenda beyond happiness for her son and his fiancée. Later, as Andrew and Tyler cleared the table and Elise called her sister with the news, Mom and I found ourselves alone in the kitchen loading the dishwasher. Thank you, Mom said quietly, handing me a dessert plate. For what? I asked, puzzled. For not giving up on me, she replied simply. After that awful Sunday dinner, you would have been justified in walking away, in deciding I wasn't worth the effort. I considered this thoughtfully. I think we all needed that confrontation, painful as it was. It forced us to face truths we'd been avoiding for years. Mom nodded slowly. My therapist calls it a necessary disruption, a breaking point that makes healing possible. She paused, then added, I'm so grateful it wasn't a breaking point for our family entirely. Me too, I said sincerely. I've been thinking lately about legacies, Mom continued, her tone contemplative. What we pass down to the next generation, for better or worse. My hands stilled on the silverware I was arranging. What kind of legacies? Patterns, beliefs, ways of relating to each other, Mom explained. My mother passed her insecurities to me. I nearly passed my unhealthy expectations to you and Tyler. But you didn't, I reminded her gently. You broke the cycle. We broke it together, Mom corrected me. And now, with Tyler and Elise talking about children someday, with you and Andrew building your future, there's a chance for something different going forward. The thought was both profound and hopeful. The idea that our family's healing might extend beyond our immediate relationships to influence generations yet to come. I like that perspective, I told her. That what we've done together isn't just about fixing the past, but creating a better future. Mom smiled, a genuine expression that reached her eyes. Your father used to say that the most important investment we ever make is in the people we love. I think I'm finally understanding what he meant. From the dining room came the sound of laughter, Tyler telling some animated story, Elise's distinctive giggle, Andrew's deeper chuckle. The ordinary, precious sound of family enjoying each other's company. We should join them, Mom suggested, closing the dishwasher. I think Tyler mentioned something about board games after dinner. A dangerous proposition given how competitive he gets, I said with a laugh. Some things never change entirely, Mom acknowledged with a wry smile. But the important things have. As we walked back to join the others, I reflected on the journey that had brought us to this point. From a painful confrontation over a hidden promotion to a genuine celebration of each other's unique paths. From rigid expectations to open acceptance. From comparison and competition to mutual support and joy in each other's successes. The road hadn't been straight or simple. There had been setbacks, old habits resurfacing, difficult conversations, but each step, however small or stumbling, had moved us in the right direction, toward authenticity, toward healing, toward the family we were meant to be all along. And that, I realized, was the true promotion none of us had expected but all of us had earned. Advancement to a new level of relationship, one built on honesty, respect, and unconditional love. A title no one could give or take away because we had created it ourselves, together. 5 years later, on a brilliant spring afternoon, we gathered in the garden of the Hayes Family Foundation, a converted Victorian downtown that housed both my financial consultancy and Tyler's design studio. What had begun as a tentative conversation over brunch had evolved into a thriving business partnership that combined our complementary strengths, my financial expertise and Tyler's creative vision. The occasion was the Foundation's 2nd anniversary, celebrating not just our professional success, but the scholarship program we'd established in Dad's name for students pursuing unconventional career paths. The garden buzzed with clients, colleagues, scholarship recipients, and family. Elise moved through the crowd with their toddler, Emma, perched on her hip. My own daughter, Claire, just 6 months old, slept peacefully in Andrew's arms as he chatted with Tyler about renovation plans for the building's east wing. Mom stood near the podium we'd set up for speeches, elegant in a blue dress that matched her eyes, greeting guests with genuine warmth. At 70, she carried herself with a grace that came from hard-won self-awareness and profound personal growth. Ready? Tyler asked, appearing at my elbow with 2 champagne flutes. I accepted one, nodding. As I'll ever be. We made our way to the podium, gently tapping glasses to gather everyone's attention. The crowd quieted, faces turning expectantly toward us. Thank you all for coming, I began. 5 years ago, when Tyler and I first discussed creating a business together, we never imagined standing here today. We had different ideas about success back then, Tyler continued seamlessly, defined by titles, promotions, external validation. What we've built instead, I added, is something neither of us could have created alone. A space where financial wisdom and creative vision work in harmony, where clients find not just services, but partnership. Tyler raised his glass. To our father, James Hayes, whose belief in investing in people inspired this foundation. The scholarships awarded today carry forward his legacy of supporting authentic paths, whatever shape they take. I caught Mom's eye in the crowd, noting the quiet pride in her expression. So different from the approval-withholding woman who had once told me to hide my promotion. She nodded slightly, encouraging me to continue. And to new definitions of success I concluded. Not measured by comparison or competition, but by contribution, fulfillment, and the courage to create your own path. After the applause, as guests returned to mingling, Mom approached us. "Your father would be so proud," she said, embracing us both. "Not just of what you've built professionally, but of the family we've become." The simple truth of her words resonated deeply. The journey that had begun with a painful confrontation over a promotion had transformed not just our careers, but our understanding of success itself. Later, as the party wound down, Tyler and I found ourselves alone in the garden. The late afternoon sun filtered through the oak trees, casting dappled shadows across the lawn where our children would someday play together. "We did it," Tyler said quietly. "Found our own way. Together," I added, "but on our own terms." The path hadn't always been straight or simple. There had been challenges in merging our professional worlds, disagreements about direction, the inevitable complications of growing businesses and growing families. But beneath it all ran a current of mutual respect and genuine support that made even the difficult moments navigable. The competition that had once been engineered between us had been replaced by collaboration, each of us bringing our unique strengths to a shared vision. As I watched Andrew approach with Claire awakening in his arms, as Elise called Tyler to help with Emma's sudden interest in the fountain, as Mom gathered discarded programs with the quiet helpfulness that characterized her remade relationship with us, I felt a profound sense of rightness. Some promotions appear on business cards and office doors. Others, the more meaningful ones, show up in healed relationships, authentic paths, and the freedom to define success on your own terms. In all the ways that truly mattered, we had all been promoted together. Looking for more? We've got 2 amazing stories ready for you right on screen. If this one touched you, these are absolutely worth your time. Click to watch them now. And hey, subscribe and hit that bell to never miss our latest uploads.